Welcome back to the Just Say Something podcast. I'm Philip Clark, CEO of Just Say Something and the host of our podcast. Before we get started today, please share, follow, like, and comment on our podcast. It helps others find us. So let's get into today's episode. There's something I've been thinking about lately, and honestly, it's not easy to talk about, but it matters. What happens when a community stays silent? Not just quiet, but really silent. When people see things, notice things, feel like something's off, but no one says anything because it's uncomfortable, because they don't want to offend, because it's not their place, because they don't want to be wrong, or worse, they don't want to get involved. But here's the truth. We've seen what happens when communities stay silent. Nothing changes. In fact, things really get worse. In the work we do at Just Say Something, we're not talking about prevention in schools or programs or one-time conversations. We're talking about culture. We're talking about whether the people around our kids, such as our parents, teachers, coaches, neighbors, and friends who are willing to step in, speak up, and create an environment where silence isn't the default. Because silence creates space, and not the good kind. It creates a space for bad decisions to go unchecked. It creates space for risky behavior to feel normal. It creates space for kids to believe that no one is paying attention, or worse, no one cares. I've seen it too many times. A kid starts to drift. Maybe it's subtle at first. Maybe a change in attitude, a change of friends, pulling away from things they used to care about. People notice, but they don't say anything. They assume someone else will, or they convince themselves, oh, it's just a phase, or they don't want to offend the parents or the coach or the kid, so they stay quiet. And that silence, it adds up, because what most people don't realize, prevention doesn't happen in big moments. It happens in small ones. A quick conversation, a simple check-in, a moment where someone says, hey, I noticed something. Are you okay? That's prevention. But when a community stays silent, those moments never happen. And let's talk about the other side of this for a second. Stigma. Silence feeds stigma. When no one talks about substance use, mental health, peer pressure, or what kids are really facing today, it sends a message. It says, we don't talk about that here. So kids don't, parents don't, families don't. And when something does go wrong, people feel isolated instead of supported. That's the cost of silence. Now, I want to be clear about something. Speaking up doesn't mean pointing fingers. It doesn't mean accusing. It doesn't mean overreacting. It means caring enough to engage. It means being willing to have a conversation that might feel a little uncomfortable because you know it could make a difference. Imagine what could happen if we flipped that. If instead of silence, we had awareness. Instead of avoiding a tough conversation, we leaned into them. If every adult in a young person's life saw themselves as part of the prevention effort, not just someone on the sidelines, that's when things start to change. Because kids don't grow up in isolation. They grow up in communities. And whether we realize it or not, We're all part of the environment shaping their decisions. What we say, what we don't say, what we ignore, what we address, it all matters. So here's the question I want to leave with you today. Where might silence be showing up in your world? At home? At school? On a team? In a friend group? At work? And what would it look like to replace that silence with just one small action? Not a big speech, not a perfect conversation. Just say something. A check in, a question, a moment of connection. Because prevention isn't about having all the answers, it's about being present. It's about paying attention. It's about having the courage to speak up when it would be easier not to. At Just Say Something, that's what we believe in. Not just problems, not just awareness, but people, real people, choosing to show up for the young people in their lives. And if we can do that, if we can create communities where silence isn't the norm, then we don't just respond to problems, we prevent them. Thank you for being here. And more importantly, thank you for being part of the conversation. Until next week, please be sure to like, share, and comment.